we are off and running. But please do ask me questions as we go through. This is designed to be interactive, so if you have questions, please do give them a shout out. One thing, the software that I use has a tendency to drop the share when I switch screens. So if I am happily talking about something that it's obvious I'm talking about something you guys can't see, somebody please give me a shout and say, hey, we don't see what you're talking about. What you should be looking at right now is the Goliath of the Sea. This is Feedback Studio. So this is the view that you will see as an instructor after you've created a class, after you've created an assignment, and after a student has actually turned in work, and now you're ready to actually evaluate it. Now, this is a demo site. This is really a training and demo site. There are features that are actually turned off that are available to you. I'll point those out as we go through. There's just a few things. The Quick Mark Manager is turned off, and the Rubric Manager is turned off in this view. But I will certainly point those out as when we get into the live tool as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that I want to do is orientate you to what you're looking at. Now, for some of you, this is going to be old hat. You've been in here before. Some of you may be brand new. So real quickly, upper left-hand corner, it's just a logo. It just says Feedback Studio. The reason is that Turnitin is actually the company, and Feedback Studio is the product. We do have more than one software platform available, and so a lot of people have been around the block a few years and have used it, and oh yeah, I use Turnitin. Well, Feedback Studio is what gives you the ability to actually do the plagiarism checking. A lot of institutions buy more than one of our products, so we'll always just let you know which product you're in. Tessa is the student. The Goliath of the Sea is the title of the paper that Tessa gave it when she actually uploaded it. I will show you what that process looks like. We've got the grade block right here. If you use the grading functionality within Moodle, this does offer grade passback. So if you put a grade in here, it will actually write it to the gradebook in Moodle if you use it. We have the navigation right here, these little arrows. Think of it this way: when the tool loads, it's going to load all of the papers at once. So you basically consider it a stack of papers, and you're using these arrows to move forward and backward through the stack. You also do have this drop down. Now, in this demo environment, we've only got one student paper, but in a real classroom situation where you've got 20 or 30 students, all of them load at once. We've got this little question mark. This is the help section. It's a really good help section. There's a lot of useful information, quick start guides, how-to guides. It's well worth checking out if you get an opportunity, or if you're looking for information on something specifically. Along the right-hand side, we've got the toolbars, which I'll go through in detail. We've got a slider bar. Works like any slider bar you've ever used on any website. Down below, we do have this zoom function, which is actually pretty handy. It lets you zoom in and out on specific sections of the student's work. This resolution option allows you to reset the resolution. A lot of institutions are still playing catch up with technology. So if you happen to be using an older style monitor, a lot of times the resolution, we've all seen pictures where the resolution is off, they look squished. What this will do is actually reset the resolution so it displays correctly. If you're running a newer style monitor, it won't be an issue. This text only option, if you click this, this will actually strip out everything that's not text in the student's work. So it'll take out any pictures, it'll take out any, basically any captions or whatnot, and just run the report on the text, just the student's text. And there are times when that could be useful. We'll talk about those too. Bottom left-hand corner, we've got a word count and a page count. We'll always let you know exactly how long the student's paper is and where you are in relation. Upper left-hand corner, we've got this little tab that pops out. This is another navigation option. What this does is this actually takes a snapshot of each page of the student's work, and it allows you to just jump to that particular page. Now, in this environment, in this demo, we've only got a 2-page paper. It's not really useful. But say this was a 15-page research paper and you're jumping between the bibliography, you're checking sources and so forth, that could be really useful. You can lock it in place using the little lock icon. Otherwise, it's just going to tuck itself out of the way. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is go over and I'm going to go through these toolbars. The first option is what we call the layers option. And this turns on and off the various functionalities within the program. Now, this is useful when you're actually, it helps you keep your sanity is what it does. If you are going through and using the grading functionality, you can put comments, which I'll show you here in just a second, and then you can hide the comments. It doesn't delete them, it just hides them as you move on looking at the similarity report or the ETS E-Rater, which is the spelling and grammar checker. This will become a lot more, I'll show you what this looks like in a student paper that's got comments and everything on it. It makes it really easy to kind of concentrate on one particular item at a time. We've got the blue toolbar right here. These are going to be all of your grading and feedback tools. The first tool that I want to show you actually doesn't appear anywhere. What you do is just click on the white space, and this brings up what's called the in-context marking tool. Now, this is a quick access tool for feedback. The first option is this little square with a check mark, and this brings up what are called quick marks. Now, quick marks are comments. One of the toughest things about being a teacher, being an instructor, is commenting on students' work. It takes forever. It's physically exhausting because you're having to write everything out. What this allows you to do is make comments on your students' work, but just by clicking on the comments you want to put in. Now, when you select a comment, what it does is it will actually place it on the paper. You can move it anywhere you want, but it actually can go a step further, because what you can do is you can actually load the quick mark with additional information. So in this example, I am using the improper citation quick mark. I've got it preloaded with a link to plagiarism.org. This is actually an article about how to cite sources correctly. So what it's letting me do is it's actually letting me close the loop, if you will. I can tell the student what's wrong, and I can give the student a path so they can go fix it. Now, I can add any custom comment that I want. I can write whatever I want in here. There's no limit to how much I can put in here. It's not a word processor, but I do have some editing tools up here, such as I can bold, italicize, I can add additional hyperlinks if I want, and so forth. If I decide this is the wrong quick mark, I can always delete it by just clicking this little trash can icon right here. Now, this is useful, being able to park the quick mark anywhere I want. However, if I highlight a section of text, that same toolbar will pop up. And now if I select a quick mark, what it does is it highlights that section of text. So I do have some options as far as which color I want the text to be highlighted in. Let me choose, I'll just choose blue here. And now when I move the quick mark around, this will actually lock it in place. So I can get very specific with my commenting for my students. In this, it's kind of a generic comment. I can just kind of park it. Here, I'm telling the student, this is exactly what I'm referring to in my feedback. Now, just scrolling down here, again, just clicking on the white space. The next tool that pops up is this little bubble tool. And this is your generic commenting tool. What this is used for is just providing feedback to your students. Again, you can write as much as you want to in here. You've got your editing tools. The idea behind this tool is that you can write really long, detailed comments and not use up all the real estate on the student page. So I can, when I open it up, what I can do is I can actually write, I could write a novel in here if I wanted to, but as soon as I click on it, it actually collapses it so I'm not covering up all of the students' writing. Now, there is another option that's available within this tool, and that is the ability to create a quick mark on the fly. Now, quick marks are designed to make feedback easier and faster for instructors. There are a number of quick marks that are available by default. Chances are very good that the comments you are writing on your students' papers already exist in those libraries of quick marks. However, we also know that you're going to want to create your own, and you can do that. This is one option. If you find yourself writing something like, please use MLA format, and you find yourself writing it over and over and over, that's what a quick mark is for. So you can just click here, convert to quick mark, and then whatever you've typed in there is now available as just a drop and drag function. Now, that highlighting option is also available with the bubble tool, with the comment tool. So if I select it, again, I've got some options as far as what colors I want to use specifically. But now when I move this little bubble tool around, it's going to lock it in place. So I can get really detailed, really laser specific with my feedback to my student. Now, the third option will change slightly depending on if you have it open in white space or if you have a section of text highlighted. I've got it open here, and I just clicked on the white space. So the third option looks like a T. And what this is we call it the inline commenting tool. And it's just another way of providing feedback to your students, but it doesn't collapse. So whatever you write is going to be displayed front and center on the student's work. The whole idea is to give instructors lots of options as to how they want to use these tools. You know, a lot of instructors will put all their positive comments using the inline tool, and maybe the the corrective comments in the bubble tool, things like that. It's entirely up to you how you want to use it. Now, that third option changes if you've got a section of text highlighted. That third option actually changes to, looks like an S with a line through it. This is your strikeout tool. So it's just like taking a pencil and just Xing out that particular line. Now, you can stack the tools on top of each other. So I've got this last sentence of Tessa's paper crossed out. I can put a comment on top of it now and let her know exactly what it is I want her to do. Maybe I want her to get rid of it. Maybe I want her to rewrite it, whatever. That is that inline commenting tool. Again, just clicking on the white space or highlighting a section of text, and then that gives you the option to color code your comments. Now, this blue toolbar right here, the first option that opens up is, again, the quick mark option. And this still gives you all of that same drop and drag functionality. However, what you can do here is you can select from the various quick mark sets. There's a bunch of quick mark sets that are available by default. They're very, very good. I would definitely take a look at them, check them out. But you can also create your own custom quick marks, and you can create your own custom quick mark sets as well. That option is this little gear icon right here. Now, remember I said that there were a few things turned off in this demo environment. This is one of them. I don't know why, to be honest with you, but it's turned off. But I will show you how to access that in the live tool for sure. Just know for now, yes, you can create custom quick marks. Yes, you can create custom quick mark sets. You can also do a search right here. If you know there's a quick mark that's in one of those sets, you don't remember which set it is, you can just look for it using the little search box here. Now, moving on, the next option is this little, looks like a pad and a pencil, or maybe an iPad and a stylus. These are your overall summative feedback tools. You can leave up to a 3-minute voice comment for your students, or you can leave an overall text comment. Again, not a word processor. It really, there's no limit to how many characters you can put in here, but you can definitely make your point. You can bold and italicize, and again, add hyperlinks to external resources, style guides, or whatnot. So that's the second option, and these are your summative feedback tools. Now, the third option looks like this little Tetris guy right here. When you open this up, this is your rubric functionality. Now, I understand that your institution has been using Feedback Studio for a while, and some of you have probably created rubrics within Feedback Studio. Are those going to be available within Moodle? The answer is yes, absolutely. Now, in this demo, what we have is we've got a Common Core aligned writing rubric that's been attached. What I can do is I can grade based on this rubric. I have all my criterion in the box below, and I've got all of my little slider scales. So what I can do is just move the slider scales up and down until I'm satisfied this is where Tessa has come as far as the requirements. Then I can click Apply to Grade, and it will automatically do the numerical correction. So a 3.6 on a 5-point scale equates to a 72 out of 100. And remember, this does have grade pass back, so that would actually write back to the LMS gradebook, if that's a requirement of yours. You can always override this if you want. You're never stuck with any one thing. Now, the ability to attach a rubric is either in this option right here with this little gear icon, you can also create custom rubrics. You can modify rubrics that are already available. There are a number of rubrics that are available by default. Now, just like the quick marks, it's turned off. Again, I'm not quite sure why it's turned off in the demo, but I will definitely show that to you in the live tool as well. So again, just for now, understand that there are rubrics that are available right out of the gate, but you can create custom rubrics and you can modify rubrics that are already there. And from talking with your tech staff, it sounds like a lot of you have already done that and are familiar with that process. Now, that is the blue toolbar, which are all of the grading and feedback options. So now you can see I've got all of these items that are popping up on the student's page. This layers button allows me to turn them off. So I can hide them as I move on and go on to the next steps. Now, the next toolbar right here is this red toolbar, and this is most likely the biggest reason that your institution purchased this product. This is what gives you the ability to do the originality checking or the plagiarism checking. Now, the first option right here is just going to give you a number. It's just a percentage. What this is your 10,000-foot view. You're just flying over the countryside looking at what's what. What this does is this goes to how the system actually works. The way that the system works is that when a student uploads an assignment, there are actually 3 separate checks that are done. The first check is done against what's called the student repository. Every time a paper is uploaded, it becomes part of the system that everything else is then checked against. That's your collusion checking. That's what's keeping a student in your class who did their own work from then emailing that paper to their friend in Texas or giving it to a student for next semester. The second check that's done is a web check. So it's actually doing a live internet check. We check live websites. We also check archived websites that are actually no longer available to navigate to. The third check that we do is against academic and research journals. So these are the journals that you probably need a LexisNexis account for. They're usually hidden behind a paywall. Think American Medical Association. You got to be a member in order to get their publication. So we do check those as well. So what this is this is an aggregate of all of the hits that the system has caught on the student's paper. Now, what it will do in this view is give you the top 3, and it correlates to the little flags here. Now, in this student's paper, by far the biggest response that I'm getting, or the biggest match that I'm getting, is from Wikipedia. So already in the back of my head, I've got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. However, I've also got this next option, which looks like this bar graph. Now, what this bar graph does is this gives you the ability to go in and look at each individual match directly if you want to. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that Wikipedia is still number 1, but you'll notice that I've got this really tight grouping of percentages here. Now, that's because information exists in lots of locations online. So when you look at something like this, when you have a tight grouping up here, Wikipedia is still number 1, but Wikipedia, especially sites that are like public, Common Core sites or sites that can be embedded in other sites, you'll see that information pop up lots of different places, and you'll get an individual match on it. Think of YouTube. You can watch a video on YouTube, but you can also embed a YouTube video in your personal website if you want to. So generally speaking, that's what you're going to get when you see these tight groupings. Now, if I were to click on here, this will actually take me directly to Wikipedia. It'll take me to the entry that Turnitin is saying this is matched against. Now, I'm not actually going to do that because I can see right here that it matches word for word. So what's going on? Tessa's cutting and pasting from Wikipedia is what Tessa is doing here. But I also have all of these other matches. So what is that about? You'll notice that I've got that pretty tight grouping at the top, but then I've got all these little matches like 9% and 12%. Think of the phrase, open the door. Open the Door has probably been written 10,000 times in 10,000 different publications. It's not plagiarism, it's just really common. And so what'll happen is you will get matches, you will get hits on things that you don't need to be concerned about. Things that are so, that the number of words or the percentage match is so small, it's not anything that you as an instructor need to be really concerned about. Now, the way that this is set up is that the third option, this little funnel, does allow you to start to filter those matches out. Now, in this option, I've got the ability to filter out anything in quotes. I've got the ability to filter out the bibliography, and I have the ability to filter out those small matches. So I can filter out either by percentage or by X number of words. Now, that usually begs the question, what's a good percentage? What should this percentage be? Turnitin will never officially tell you what the percentage should be. There's, what's your plagiarism policy? Are you using those filters and settings and so forth? Now, me personally, I'm an ex-teacher. I taught for 15 years. As somebody familiar with the tool, I wouldn't really be concerned about anything under about 15%, maybe 18%, somewhere in that range. Is it possible to have a student cheating at 15%? Yes. Is it possible to have a student at 20 or 25% not cheating? Absolutely, especially depending on if you're using these filters or settings, which is why this second option is so useful. If you're ever on the fence, if you're ever just not quite sure, you can go directly to the source and take a look for yourself. And it's usually pretty clear what's going on. Now, with Tessa here, is Tessa cheating? Well, maybe, maybe not. It's entirely possible Tessa has no idea what paraphrasing is. She has no idea what MLA format is. It's entirely possible that Tessa absolutely knows what MLA format is, and we just spent 6 weeks talking about plagiarism. But as the instructor, I have the information. I have what I need, and I can take whatever steps I deem appropriate. Now, one thing about this option, these filters and settings, these only apply to the overall percentage. So if I were to apply any of these, you'll notice it wouldn't really change anything. I can still see exactly what Tessa's doing. I still know that she went to Wikipedia and was cutting and pasting out of Wikipedia. However, if I do apply some filters and settings, if I say I don't want to see anything under 15%, then as an instructor, we never hide information from instructors. What will happen is anything that's being excluded from those matches will actually be displayed in this last option right here. This little, it looks like a circle and a slash. So if I were to say exclude anything under 15%, well, all of those matches would then populate right here. And I would still have the ability to go in and take a look at them if I needed to. Now, I understand that that is reading the originality report. We'll get into actually how to set it up here in just a minute when we switch over to the Moodle site. Now, there's one toolbar that doesn't appear, and it's called the ETS Key Reader. ETS eReader is it's a spelling and grammar checker, and it actually does spelling, grammar, mechanics, usage, style, I think. It's actually a fairly good system. What it does is it works a lot like Word, like the spell checker in Word, where it'll highlight a section on the student's work and it'll give the student a suggestion as to how to fix it. Doesn't fix it for them, but it's a good system to use, especially if you want the students to obviously turn in grammar, correct spelling, and whatnot. And I'll show you how to attach that to the assignment as well. Now, this last option that we've got down here, we've got two items. The first one is this little arrow that looks like with a little slash under it. If you ever have the requirement or the need to either print or email the report that you've generated, you can do that. What this will do is actually put it into a PDF format. It'll take all of your comments, it'll take all of the grading, it'll take everything that was matched in the originality report, puts it into a PDF format, which as a PDF, it's easy to print it or attach it to an email or whatnot. Now, the last option is this little circle with an I, and this is all of the submission information. Now, we don't actually record personally identifiable information on students. what happens is that when a student's paper is uploaded, a unique number is generated. That's the submission ID right here. That's how the paper is managed through the Turnitin system. Now, this unique number can be very useful if you ever have an issue with a student submission. Luckily, that doesn't happen that often, but if a student comes to you and they've got a problem, that submission ID can be useful to the Turnitin help desk engineer because they're able to go see exactly what happened with if there is a problem. The rest of the information is just metadata. It's the date when the submission was made, what type of file it was, how big the file was, etc. If you ever have students that are kind of curious as to, what does Turnitin collect? What am I actually sending them besides my paper? This is it right here. This is the information. This information appears in other locations as well. This is just one of them. So that was a very quick overview of the actual user interface. Again, this is what you'll see after you've created a class, after you've created an assignment, and after a student has actually turned in work. So what I'm going to do now is I actually cheated a little bit. I went ahead and logged in, and this is where I'm going to have to make sure that you guys actually are seeing what I'm showing you. Are you guys seeing Moodle South Suburban College Turnitin practice course?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, I am actually logged in to your Moodle instance. So this is exactly what you will see when you log in. Now, I understand that your courses are generally already created for you. That's great. However, when you come in and you want to create an assignment for a Turnitin assignment, you will actually have to go through the process that I'm showing you. Now, this course doesn't have anything in it at this point. It's just a generic course shell, so there's nothing being displayed. But if you've used Moodle for any amount of time, you realize the first thing that you need to do is turn the editing capability on right here. Now, what that does is that gives you the ability to go into each of your modules and add assignments. Now, there's a couple of things to be aware of with this, the way that you're going to be accessing Turnitin. If you've used Turnitin in the past, you probably used it by logging into Turnitin.com. You probably created a profile, set up classes, had students self-enroll, and so forth. That's no longer necessary because the LMS, Moodle, will actually handle all of that for you. So there's nothing that you need to do in addition as far as creating classes on Turnitin. This is as long as you're logged into Moodle and you follow this process, you will be able to access the Turnitin system. So what you'll do is you'll come down to the module or the topic, however you have your course set up, and you'll use this option right here which says add an activity or a resource. When you do that, this dialog box will pop up. Now, most of the time, you probably have been adding either assignments or you've been adding, chat rooms or whatnot. You're going to want to scroll down until you see this option right here. It's got the Turnitin logo, and it actually says Turnitin assignment. That's what you're going to want to select. Now, at this point, it'll just give you a little dialog box that says, hey, this is going to be a Turnitin assignment that's going to be checked for plagiarism. That's fine. I want to go ahead and add it. Now, the thing about an integration is that you have two things that are going on. You've got two systems that are talking to each other. We've got the Moodle system, the actual learning management system, and we have Turnitin. It's important to understand what's going on when. This can save you some frustration, especially if you ever want to go back and change things or reuse assignments. Now, in this view, what I have is this is all specific to Moodle. So if you have anything, this should all be very familiar to you if you've ever created a Moodle assignment. The reason I point this out is because there will be things that are unique to your LMS that are required by your LMS administrator. Obviously, you're going to have to put in a title for the assignment. Anything with this little red star is going to be a required box. So you're going to have to make sure that you go through, and that changes from LMS to LMS. Now, in your guys' LMS, in your Moodle instance, submission type is a drop-down box, and basically it's just asking you, do you want it to be a straight file upload or a text submission where they can actually type into it, or do you want any submission type? Turnitin will accept either. So it really, most of the time, generally speaking, students are going to do the work on a word processor and then upload it. But some students may want to be able to just type it in directly. It really doesn't matter as far as Turnitin is concerned. All of this information right here is number of parts, maximum file size. This is specific to Moodle. This right here, allow submission of any file type, is specific to Turnitin. What does this mean? Well, this goes back to how the system actually works. What can we check for originality? We can check anything that's text-based. So we can check a Word doc, we can check a Google Doc, we can check RTF, PDF, anything that's text. However, the whole idea behind the product is that anybody can use it. So let's say this is an art class and the assignment is take a picture of a sunrise and upload the JPEG. We can't check pictures for originality. We can't check songs for originality. But as the instructor, you may not care. You may just want to be able to use the feedback tools and the quick marks. So if you click no, right here, which is the default, it's going to force the student to upload a Word document. When I say Word, I mean text document. We accept Google Docs, Word docs, RTF, HTML, any of the open source word processor that are available, Open LibreOffice, and those, we can accept those. If you click yes, then a student could upload a picture or a song. We just can't check it for originality. So that's what this is asking you. The default generally is going to be set no, and that's probably what most of you will use it, because plagiarism it will be a big part of it. But just know and understand, can I accept a picture? Yes. Can I have it into the Turnitin system? Yes. I just may not be able to check it for originality. Now the next option right here is display it to the students, yes or no. Entirely up to you as the instructor. Do you want the students to be able to look at the actual report? That is entirely up to you whether you choose yes or no. If you choose yes right here, then the student will be able to click and see the exact same report that you see. They won't be able to change anything. They don't have access to actually, add comments or whatnot, but they will have the ability to look at that same report that's generated. Now, the rest of this is actually specific to Moodle. So the rest of this should be familiar to you, whether you're going to set it up as a multi-part assignment, whether you're going to set up the gradebook or not, entirely up to you and what your requirements are. Moving down, now we do get back into Turnitin specific options, originality report options. You'll want to open that up. It's going to ask, you've got a lot of choices here. The first one is whether you want to allow submissions after the due date. If you click yes, then the student could be able to, the system will accept the student's upload after the due date. As an instructor, you'll know it was turned in late. It'll red flag it, but it will accept it. If you click no, then once the due date comes and goes, that's it. It won't even accept the paper. Report generation. This is when the report will actually be created. As the instructor, you can decide whether you want that report to be created as soon as the student uploads the paper, and that's the default. It'll actually create the report as soon as the student turns in the work, and they will not be able to resubmit, so they can't turn it in again. The next option is actually the same. It'll create the report immediately, but they could resubmit if they wanted to. So, oh, wait a minute, I turned in the wrong version of my paper, they can upload it again. The final version is that, or the final option is that it will just accept the papers, and then what it'll do is generate the reports on all of the submissions on the due date. Again, this is entirely up to you as to how you want those, or when you want those reports to be generated. Now, this option right here, store student papers, standard repository or no repository. Remember earlier I told you about how the system actually works, what the checks are being done. By the standard option is that the paper will be stored in the repository. Again, that's your collusion checking. But there are times when you may not want to store the student paper. That would be the best example I can give you is if you want the student to turn in the same work again. The system is smart enough, it won't flag a student for self-plagiarism if it's the same assignment, the same student, and the same instructor. However, if any one of those changes and the paper was already uploaded and stored in the repository, it'll come back 100% plagiarized because it's saying, hey, it's already been through the system. So the example that I like to give is, let's say, a multi-part research assignment where you've got a student turning in a rough draft and you want them to be able to see the originality report, come to you with any questions and so forth. But you're planning on having them turn in that same work again as a separate assignment. Let's say rough draft and final draft. In that example, the first time around, you wouldn't want to store it in the repository. The second time, you would. Now, what happens if you forget about this? Nothing other than that the second time the student uploads it, it'll come back 100% plagiarized. You'll be able to see that and say, oh, wait a minute, it's self-plagiarism. I don't need to worry about that. But that's a good example of when not to save it in the repository, or when you definitely do want to save it in the repository. If it's a single assignment, one and done, you know, obviously the choice is yours, but obviously we recommend put it in the repository because that does give you that collusion checking. Now, here what you've got is you've got the actual checks themselves. These are those 3 separate checks that I was talking about. Do you want to check it against stored student papers? That's the repository. Against the internet, obviously that's self-explanatory. And here, those are those academic and research journals. For your best results, you're going to want to leave all three checked. Now here you can set those matches, those filters. You can exclude the bibliography, you can exclude quotes, and you can exclude small matches based on either words or percentage. Obviously this is up to you. Personally, what I like to do is I like to run it as 100% the first time through, because you can actually do this on the fly. You can do this in the report view. You can turn these on and off, and it allows you to really, if you need to, do a deep dive. You can do a 100% return. It's showing me a 38% match. I can go in and turn those on and off and see exactly what's going on. But again, it's entirely up to you whether you want to set those or not. Now here you've got what are called grade mark options. Again, you want to expand that. This is where you will actually attach the rubric if you would like to or not. Now, earlier I said that the Rubric Manager was turned off in the demo. This is one way that you can access the Rubric Manager. So when I open this up, Firefox is preventing me. So I will allow. Told you we'd have at least one glitch during training. It always happens. Let me go back in there. Oh, it actually took me all the way back. That's great. Let me go back in here. Sorry, guys. My internet is actually very slow. I'm having to access it through a VPN right now, which is causing delays. So we went through this. So I was under grade mark options here and launched that Rubric Manager. One thing, are you guys seeing the window where it says Turnitin user agreement?
Yes.
Okay, so this will pop up the very first time that you use this. This is actually me creating my account on the Turnitin side. It should only pop up the first time that you use it. Okay, so now I'm actually in the Rubric Manager, and this is where I can attach a rubric that is already created, or what I can do is I can create a new rubric. Now, in the drop-down box, you've got 2 drop-down boxes in the left and right-hand corners. In the left-hand corner, the first option is to create new rubric. Now, what this does is this opens up a blank, editable rubric form. Now, honestly, I wouldn't start here. And what I mean by that is that if you have a rubric that you have in a Word document or a PDF, I would use this to recreate a rubric I already had, because it's really easy to cut and paste into here. Everything's editable. If you need more criterion, you just use the little plus button. Say you want a 5-point scale instead of a 3-point scale. Again, you use the little plus button. And so you've got all your verbiage, your, here's your criterion and so forth. This is your weighting. If you do happen to if you want to use the grading functionality, the weighting does not have to be the same. It just needs to equal 100%, so that conversion tool will work correctly. Now, what I would do is if I had a rubric that I wanted that was already in a Word document, I would use this to cut and paste. The other option this is actually where I would start, is there are a lot of rubrics that are available by default. And what I would do is actually find a rubric that was close, but that maybe not close enough, maybe something that I could modify or change. So I've got this 11th and 12th grade argument rubric. Well, I'm teaching at the college level. I don't want it to say 11th and 12th grade. There's a few things in here that I want to change verbiage-wise, but I'm clicking around and I can't actually do anything. What I can do is come up to this drop-down, and this option says duplicate. If I click on duplicate, what it'll do is it'll actually make a copy. Now I can change anything that I want to change on the rubric itself. Now it's fully editable. So if you want to get a custom rubric into the system, this is probably the quickest way. Find one that's already in existence and modify it. Otherwise, you have the option to create one from scratch right here. Now, you can share rubrics amongst your teammates all day long. So if you create a rubric and you want to share it with somebody, it's just a simple import and export function. You would export it, it puts it on your desktop. You would put it on a USB drive or a shared network location, and whoever you want to give access to it would then just import it into their account, and it would be available to them. Now, there is a third option, and I'll be honest with you, I've never met an instructor who's actually done this, ever. You can actually, if you've created rubrics in Excel, you can actually import them from Excel. The only caveat to that is you have to go back through and realign each and every rubric to, these are all of the instructions. The rubric in the spreadsheet must have the scales of the rubric as the first row, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. This is why I've never met anybody who's actually done this. However, if you have rubrics in Excel, yes, technically you can import them right from Excel. Most of the time, people are either going to create them from scratch or modify an existing rubric by using that duplicate function. So that is the Rubric Manager. Now, you can access it through the actual tool. Remember, that was turned off, or you can access it through when you're in this option right here. And it's being slow on me again. Come on. I don't know why it's doing that to me. So it's probably going to kick me all the way back to the beginning again. It's probably going to do the same thing. So yep, there we go. So I will go back through real quickly. We did this. You guys have seen this 3 times now, so you should be thrilled. And so I went through all of that. Down at the bottom, the rest of these options are strictly Moodle. So I left off at that grade mark option. That's where I was accessing the Rubric Manager. The rest of these are all specific to Moodle. So these are going to show up on every single assignment that you create. Now, what I'm going to do now, I am going to cheat a little bit. I'm actually going to switch over to my Moodle site. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've already created an assignment in there. So I'm going to switch over. This looks different than the Moodle site that I was just in. However, the process is exactly the same. So everything that I did is completely accurate. It's just the branding and the skin is just a little bit different. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and open my course here. And I already created this test essay. So I went through the process that I just demonstrated for you guys. Once you click submit, then you will be displayed with this. This is kind of your dashboard. All right. Now, this will give you the title. I called it Test Essay because I'm a super creative person. These are my dates right here as far as start date, due date, and post date. And I can change them if I need to. I've got the option right here. This is the Rubric Manager, and this is the Quick Mark Manager. So this allows me to, remember I said there's lots of different ways to get into these tools. Again, you've got different options here. If I click on this, this will take me right back to that Rubric Manager. We did not talk about the Quick Mark Manager here. So the Quick Mark Manager is where you can actually create custom quick mark sets and custom quick marks. The process is really simple. In first column right here, these are going to be your sets. The middle column are all of the individual quick marks themselves. This third option right here is if you're actually, this will display any of the custom ones that you create. So right now I have this composition quick mark set open. These are all of the individual quick marks that are going to be displayed. This is the actual comments that will be displayed to the students and any additional information that may appear. If I want to add to these, again, I just use the little plus button. If I want to create a custom quick mark set, I'm just going to use the little plus, give it a name. If I want to create a custom quick mark itself, again, I use the little plus button. I'll give it a title. This is actually what's going to be displayed to the students, and then I can put in any of the additional information that I want in this box right here. So that is the Quick Mark Manager. Again, those are those drop and drag comments. So what I did is I went through the process and I actually created that assignment. Now down here, I actually did upload an assignment as a student, but I do want to show you what that looks like from a student perspective. So let me switch back here. And what I'm going to do is go back in. And now I'm actually logged in as a student. You'll notice here it says student 1. Now, as a student, when I click on the actual assignment, it's going to open up what looks like a very typical assignment window. Now, the assignment window it can be a little bit of a challenge for a brand new student who's never used Moodle before. And what I mean by that is that there's actually 2 steps. Now, this is not unique to Turnitin. This is actually unique to any Moodle assignment. And if you've used Moodle in the past, you know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that the student actually has to, think of it as a folder system. The way Moodle works is that the first step is to put the assignment into the folder, if you will, and then upload it. And that'll become clear here when I go through this. Now, as a student, what I'm going to do is give it a title. And again, I'm super creative, so I'll call it my essay. Then what I need to do is actually add the assignment itself to this little folder right here. So I'm going to have to navigate to it wherever that file actually happens to live. Now, I actually have a paper that is on my desktop, and I'm going to upload this Eleanor Roosevelt file. Now, I'm going to warn you, Eleanor has been uploaded like 50,000 times to our system. It's going to come back 100% plagiarized. So just fair warning. Now, again, I'm doing this as a student. I've put the paper into this folder now. I have not turned it in yet. I haven't actually submitted it to my instructor. I have to click this little button right here. This is kind of attesting, yes, this is all my own original work. Then what I do is I actually click the submission button, all right? So again, this is very standard for any type of Moodle assignment, but if you have a brand new student who's never used Moodle before, it's just something to point out because they're probably used to just upload, select file. There's that extra step in the middle where they actually have to put it into the folder. It can be a little confusing. Now, as a student, I will receive what's called the digital receipt. It'll give me an extract of the text, so this is actually verbiage from that paper. And it will give me that submission ID. Remember, this is that unique number that's generated. This is how it's actually managed through the system. Most of the time, 99.98% of the time, I don't care about that, but this just lets me know as a student that I was successful in turning in my work. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. As a student, that's it. That's all I need to do. I need to navigate to the assignment and upload the file. The only thing that I need to be aware of as a student, and it only takes one time to do it, from that point forward they'll get it, is the added step in the middle by uploading the paper into the folder and then uploading the paper to turn it in. And here is my version of that dashboard. Here I've got the title, I've got the start date. I can't change this because, again, I'm in here as a student. I can see the digital receipt. If I click on that, that's all that information we were just looking at. And here's that paper ID. Here's the date it was turned in. And there's no grade showing because, remember, as an instructor, I haven't graded it yet. I just turned it in. I could download a copy of the paper if I needed to. It doesn't take the paper back. I mean, it's still going to show up in the teacher's dashboard, but what I can do is just, if I, need a copy of it, I can download it right here.
So, Dan, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we got like 2 minutes left.
We are almost done. We are right at the end.
Thank you.
So remember what I said at the beginning, that we would kind of do a 360, that we'd kind of end up back where we started. This is now, I'm back in the teacher role. Okay, so I clicked out of the student role. I'm back in the teacher, and now what I see is I actually see I've got students turning in work. So here I've got the submission title, I've got that ID, and here is that similarity check. Remember I said it was going to be 100%. This is where I can actually go in and I can actually open up Feedback Studio. So at this point, this is where it loads. It will load in a separate window. This is where I can go back in, and this is exactly where we started from. So now I've got all of my functionality along the right-hand side, all of my toolbars. I've got, and of course, these are actually live now. You can see that if I click there, that would actually go into the Quick Mark Manager and so forth. I've got the ability to do the originality checking and so forth. So that really does bring us to the end of the training. Things to remember. The number one takeaway is probably just understanding the options that you have when you're looking at the similarity report. The second takeaway is the ability to kind of, whether you want, it really is designed to be a teaching tool. So the ability to allow the students to see the report and so forth, that's really the whole idea, is to really use this as a tool to teach academic integrity and honesty and so forth. We are at time. I understand that, and I understand that was really quick and kind of a whirlwind. But again, we did record this, so the recording will be available. I'm happy to hang out and answer questions if you would like. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to you guys, and wish you guys a great day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks.
If anyone does have a question, I know we need to get back to 11:30. I think so. It's a PA session. So we're 4 minutes if there are any questions. I know I did have one question. Seems like, so as an instructor and as a student, you don't have to set up a Turnitin account.
No, not at all. That's one of the beauties of an integration with an LMS. All you do is log into the LMS like you normally do, either as an instructor or a student. You don't need to worry about anything on the Turnitin side at all, because it's already been set up. It manages it for you.
We do have some Turnitin here that was graciously donated, so thank you, Daniel. Any other questions? Well, Daniel, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
So feel free to some gear.